I first met our VIP speaker back in 2003 when I was contacted by a group called the SVTOA, which is the SVT Vehicle Owners Association, and they were looking for someone enthusiastic enough to put on driving events all around the country. And I just started Track Guys Performance Driving Events and got involved with SVTOA and what Ford was doing there and getting the owners engaged and getting them out driving is a whole lot like what's still going on today with the Ford Performance Group in producing performance vehicles that are meant to be driven as much as they are to be admired for their engineering. So Jim's been a long-time supporter of our events in this, and I'll let him go more because he's got a lot more than I do. Jim Owens, Shelby Brand Manager.
Thank you, Jeff. I'd like to thank Jeff and Del and Jonathan. Again, he mentioned that we've been doing this since 2002 with the Track Guys, and I think they put on a phenomenal event. So a nice round of applause for Jeff and Jonathan and Del who are back there. I'd also like to thank a couple other people, Tim and Ed from the Mustang Club of America. We've been working together since 2005 to try to do more track type events and get a younger crowd in, and you guys are really doing it. On behalf of Ford Motor Company, I want to thank you guys so much for being a part of this. And then some of our sponsors who are here who are longtime friends. Mr. Childress, where are you hiding? Back over there someplace. There, wave his hand. From Gateway Classics. And where's Mr. Hope from MRT? Where are you missing? There he is. Wave over there. Thanks again for supporting the hobby. My name is Jim Owens, and I'm the Shelby Brand Manager. I got my addiction back in 2002 from the Track Guys, and I cannot tell you how proud I am to be here on behalf of Ford Motor Company and on behalf of Carroll Shelby. I've been doing performance and racing and worked directly for Carroll Shelby for just about 4 years before he passed away. And I like to share the addiction and then what this beautiful car is and what it needs. So what I'd like to do is start from the beginning. Why are we here? Why is Ford Motor Company here? Gentleman on the left in the little pedal car, does anybody recognize who that is? That's Carroll Shelby in his first car. Does anybody recognize who's over there on the right? That's Henry Ford the first. Henry Ford started Ford Motor Company 18 months after he won his first and only race. He'd already put 2 companies into the ground. He had moved back in with his family. He was working with Thomas Edison, working for Thomas Edison. And him and his crew chief, Spider Huff, sitting there on the side, decided that they were going to put a race car together to start Ford Motor Company, to give it one more try. So he went and raced against Alexander Whitten, who was the reigning champion at the time, and they were out in Grosse Pointe, Michigan. He won the race, not because his car was the fastest, because he developed a little stuffed ceramic around his firing mechanism to keep it more durable on the dirt tracks. And he beat the car, and he ended up going 60 miles an hour, a whole 60 miles an hour to win it. He sold the car, the trophy, and pulled 3 investors out of the stands, and 18 months later, with that money, started Ford Motor Company more than 100 years ago. So Henry and Carroll are geeks like us, right? What did they want to do? They wanted to go out in the car, Carroll from a really young age, and Henry used it to start a company that of the cars that we were all driving. And the bow tie guys didn't stay tonight, did they? Any of the Corvette people still here? Didn't mean to offend them. But started the company. They all wanted to drive like us. And it's that type of energy and passion that carries on today that's given us the Shelby GT350 that you saw out here. And for those of you who don't know, this is the first public event, like non-auto show, non-Barrett-Jackson, that car has been at. That car was in the factory Tuesday. Went out on the dyno, and then did a testing. And then Eric, I don't know if you saw Eric around the trailer over there, Eric picked it up from the factory, didn't even make it, out from the factory to our place. He picked it up on the trailer and took it down here so we could share this car with you.
What's the dyno number?
I can't say the dyno. I do, however, know what it is, and it's well north of 500. So why are we here today? Because 100 years ago, more than 100 years ago, Henry wanted to race just like us, and in East Texas, Carroll started wanting to race as well. So you saw the Ford Performance slide. This car on the right, does anybody recognize what that car? First car was called Sweepstakes, just so you're aware. Does anybody know what this one is?
999.
999. Again, his next car once the company started, and he wanted to do it. Now, he didn't drag race that car. He didn't drag race that car, but he had a drag racer on there. And then here's an ad over in the left. 1 mile in 39.25 seconds, or 91 miles an hour. So even back in the day, you know, Henry wanted to race. So how did we get here? Well, Henry Ford is a race car driver. I think we all know the legendary Carroll Shelby. And there is a part of him in this car. This car was on the books before Carroll passed away. He didn't get a chance to actually work on the car, but he knew what we were doing, and you'll see from some of the videos in here. He knows the Ford people, right? So he knows Edsel Ford and Bill Ford and the people who run the company. But at 7 in the morning, Eastern Standard Time, when he was living on the West Coast in California, Eric Zinkowski or Gene, our test driver, would get calls from Carroll. And Carroll would wake up and go, "Damn it, Eric, I just had this thought, and I think maybe we should put volcanic dust in the brake pad so it can dissipate the heat." My point for saying this is Carroll not only knew all the adults in Ford Motor Company, but he knew people like me and the engineers and the sign-off engineers. And those engineers who drove with Carroll knew what Carroll could fit in the seat of his pants and could feel, because that's how he drove. And it's in that car. And we think of no fitting tribute to Carroll and the relationship that he's had with the Ford family than the Shelby GT350. So a little bit more about family. There's a lot of families here, and you know, we've been doing this for a better part of 15 years. And when you go to these events, you feel like family. It's really nice for you guys, you should know that the leadership of Ford Motor Company, meaning the people who run the business, and the Ford family members, love you guys. How many of you were there with Tulsa when Henry Ford III came down? Does anybody remember when you were in Tulsa down there, raising your hands? So let's talk a little bit about the adults first, and then the Ford family. So Raj Nair, he is the Group Vice President of Product Development worldwide for Ford Motor Company. He signs off on every single one of those cars that we sell in Ford dealers across the world. And do you know what he does on the weekends? He puts on his racing suit, he puts on his helmet, and he goes out and races vintage cars for fun. Right? He does what we do. Jim Farley, who was the Group Vice President of Marketing, Sales, and Service, and now he's the President of Ford of Europe. Oh, sorry, Ford of Asia Pacific and Ford of Europe. He is racing in the Monterey Historics this year. Last year he raced in a Cobra. This year, Monterey Motorsports Reunion, oh, you covered your shirt, I can't even read it anymore. Monterey Motorsports Reunion, he's driving a 66 GT350 that he and Carroll worked on. Okay, so you have the leadership of the company. Dave Parasak, who's the chief of Ford Performance. He is the man who led the team that bought you that Boss 302. How many of you have the Boss 302s down here? Look at you, all right. Are anybody pretty happy with it? Yeah. He and Tom Barnes, pretty much brought that project to fruition. And he is now leading Ford Performance worldwide. So you have the adults that run the company who are into what we do, and then you have the Ford family. So Edsel, who's a member of the board, has 4 sons. Henry Ford III. Do you know who's running marketing for Ford Performance globally? Henry Ford III. Do you know what car he owns? Shelby GT500 KR. Do you know what he did when he went out to the engine plant? In the niche line, any of you guys have GT500s? See the signatures on the side of the engine plate? So we had all the engine people out there, and Henry goes up there. He had all the people come out and sign their names under the hood of his car. So if you open up his KR hood, all along the cowl there are all the engine builders in there. Now, Henry's the oldest of Edsel's kids. Next one is Stuart. Stuart didn't think what Ford Motor Company was doing was good enough, so he went out to our friends at Shelby American and bought a post-titled GT350 himself, and he races it. His next brother Calvin, Boss 302 owners, he owns the 302 Boss Laguna Seca. And one of the times they almost got fired, which happens quite a bit doing the stuff that I like to do, is Albert, the youngest, was down at Daytona with me, and I took him out in the 13 GT500. I said, look, you got to be able to come back and get this car. I'll build you one of these. We'll get you one of these, because then you would have the highest horsepower and you'll kick your brother's butts. So I get a phone call on Monday from Edsel's cell phone. Jim? Yes, Edsel, what can I do for you? Did you tell Albert you'd build him a GT500? Well, yeah, of course I did. That's all, all your sons have the cars in there. The next time you want to do that, you better talk to Mrs. Ford first. Okay. So the Ford family. Now, Bill Ford, chairman of the board. His oldest two sons, GT500s. He had them striped. We built it in Detroit. We upfitted it afterwards to match the colors to the car to the stripes of the school that they go to. They're graduates of the Miller Motorsports program. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, when we go down and we drive our cars out there, and we have fun with driving those cars, the people who are running Ford Motor Company, and the Ford family that still votes a substantial amount of the outstanding shares of Ford Motor Company, at the end of the day, are just like us. They want to go faster. They want to go later into the apex. They want to be out here doing this stuff just like we are today. So I wanted you to understand a little bit, how did we get here? Henry Ford and the Ford family, Carroll Shelby, our friends at MCA, SVTOA. How many people had the old school SVT products from 93 forward? Yep, that was where this all started and where Ford Performance is going into the future. So where did it start on the Shelby side? Remember the Cobra, this Princeton Avenue and Venice Beach location? You can see Carroll out there. The GT40 program. And you guys know the basic story behind that. Anybody read A.J. Baines' book? Goes like how? Basically, the Deuce didn't like to be messed with. He wasn't as friendly as Edsel and the rest of the family, and Enzo messed with him. They were at the edge, ready to sign the deal to buy. Ford Motor Company was going to buy Ferrari. And Enzo's accountants came up and valued the parts inventory way higher than what it was really worth. He tried to do a poison pill. So the Deuce backs away from the table, says very nicely, thank you, no. I don't think that's the words he used. In fact, if you talk to some of the people, that's not the words he used. And he decided that he was going to spend all of Ford Motor Company's money to beat Enzo at his game. And you guys know the story of the GT40, right? And who did they bring in? Carroll Shelby. Does anybody see a repeating message here, right? So we know all the 24-hour Le Mans. Oh, then Lee Iacocca. 1964, Mustang comes out. There's no such thing as a 64 and a half. It was all badged, bin badged 1965. I'm just saying. So Lee Iacocca turns into it and says to Carroll something along the lines, I need you to make this a race car. We're going to sell, almost 1 million of these units. People are taking them off here. It is a nice driving car. I'm not going to use the term because it's no longer appropriate. But we need to make this. And Carroll turns to him and says, well, Lee, you can't make a racehorse out of a mule. And then proceeds to build the GT350. Now, Carroll being the way Carroll was, have you heard the story of how he got 100 cars? Right, to be certified in SCCA Production B, you had to have 100 production cars. Actually, you had to have 110, I believe. He ended up having 97 of them lined up. And he was pushing them through. Like pushing them by the inspector, going back into the garage at the airport, pushing it back by, he was counting cars to get in there. That year, that car won the SCCA Production B, and it did again in 1966. Carroll was able to turn that mule into the race car that we know today. You know, the next one, GT500s, a lot of them were out here today. GT500 was a different variant, right? I mean, that's a straight line. It had things in the 60s like, you know, the really, really, really expensive stuff like air conditioning. It had a radio. But that was the high horsepower, big block, straight line car. It wasn't the left and right car and the stuff that we're doing out here today. And lo and behold, in 2007, when we came back with the GT500, what was it? 500 horsepower. At the time, 110 horsepower out of over the outgoing Terminator. And how many of you, any of you guys driven the Terminators? The old 03, 04? You know, when we drove those cars and we were taking them out on track, we thought those things were going to, oh my God, we can't believe that Ford is actually doing this. Fast forward to 2007 model year, over 500 horsepower. Anybody remember this?
Yeah.
20th anniversary. All of the products are representative products of the 20 years of modern performance history at SVT. And we're proud of each and every one of those vehicles. Dell is my first instructor. Where's Dell? Where's Dell hiding? Okay. So these guys were the first ones who created my addiction. And we're out at Gingerman Raceway at a Focus SVT. And Dell is literally grabbing a hold of the bar above the window as I'm going off way too fast, way too late in the apex, way offline. And he turns to me and he's like, do you understand if these tires go off the road, we're going to roll over? It wasn't the car, folks. It was the loose lug nut behind the wheel that my friends over here have corrected over the many years. But the performance history is there. Cobra R. Our 96 Cobra. I love that car. 2000 Cobra R. Anybody ever have a chance to drive one of those on the track?
Yeah.
You know, again, I just thought that it couldn't get any better. And that Cobra R was more akin to the Boss 302 than it was the Shelby GT500. It was the ultimate track car. You know, you had to show your SCCA license just to buy the car. Terminator, which I love. The Ford GT. And then the 2007 Shelby GT500. Hand-built, supercharged, 5.4 liter V8 with 500 horsepower, 110 over the 04 Cobra. And it brought Carroll back into the Ford Motor Company family. Between the Ford GT, so another story in here, connecting the pieces, and I'll stop with some of the stories here, they're kind of fun. Edsel Ford, as a teenager, went to work for Carroll Shelby directly. Moved out from his parents' home in Michigan, moved out to California, and lived with Carroll, but worked for him. And do you know what Carroll made him do? Wash transmission parts. Exactly. That's what Carroll did. Carroll made him do. And what he did with the money, because Carroll didn't pay him, gave him a GT500 to drive home with. As his first car from back there. Oh, and then our KR, Shelby GT500 KR, and the Shelby GT. Worked back together with Shelby Automobiles and Shelby American and Ford Racing. Does anybody remember this little deal here? Here, let me, I think I hit mute on the bike. Now there is one, just in case I want everybody to notice, I'm running that off of a flash drive because I'm legally no longer allowed to have it on any Ford Motor Company computer. So you think that was like an ad for Ford Motor Company, right? It had the bold moves thing at the end. That was a geek like us who happens to be a television commercial producer who is building his own video resume, never ran on television. Edsel Ford got a letter from the Fraternal Order of Police asking for an apology. And I'm like, Edsel, wait, Edsel, that's not ours. I promise you it's not ours. We did not do this. Guess who wrote the letter, apology letter to the Fraternal Order of Police? That would be me. Part of that was the cease and desist letter that came along with it, that it can't be on Ford computers. So, driving from the partnership between Shelby and Ford can be fun. These cars are meant to be driven, and I appreciate the car show folks that were out here today, and I love going through there. But these cars are meant to be driven. Do you know what is the most expensive, appraised, highest appraised vehicle that is in the United States right now? Carroll's original Cobra. I was sitting in there in his office when he got offered $28 million for it. And he said no. Do you know he made us drive that car? Had to drive it at least 50 miles a year. Gary Patterson, does anybody know Gary from Shelby American? Yeah. So Patterson and I are up at Monterey, and we have it on display at the Jet Center, which is about 4 miles from the racetrack. You know, going down the road, you have to go down there. So we have it on display there, and Carol's like, I'm driving home. I'm like, what? No, it's midnight. It's dark. All of a sudden, the lights go off on the car. I'm driving this car literally 3 feet behind the pickup truck so we could see. I'm like, oh my God, please don't, please I don't want to crash this car. Please don't crash this car. My point for that is Carroll wanted these cars driven, just like we do today. It's got to be fun. There's the man with all the stuff that we did. The GTH commercial that we saw. Shelby American today, still doing the Cobras, the Raptors, the GT500s, the new Shelby GT. I don't know if anybody has seen that yet. It's the Mustang 2015 Mustang platform. Ford Racing, I'm sorry, it's going to take me a long time. Ford Performance blower and Ford Performance suspension. It is the most fun I've had in a track car in a very long time. And you guys need to drive that if you ever get a chance to do it. All of that leads to that car that you saw here today. And I was crying to want to drive it on the track today. I so wanted to do it. But I was told explicitly not to drive it on a track at speed. So I interpreted that saying I could actually drive it on the track for the parade laps. Now once the video gets up on YouTube or whatever somebody posts it, I'll see whether I have a job on Monday. So, how do you launch a car like this? The Ghost. Now, some things in there. The steps. People know the story behind that?
How far was it?
347 steps from the corner of the building to the airport tarmac where they used to lift up the fence when the planes weren't landing and drive out on the runways to test the cars, and when the planes started coming back, would drive back in. Kid you not. I kid you not. That's how they tested it out there at the LAX airport. So they had this thing at Ford Motor Company that brought the Mustang out. Anybody remember Mustang 1 that ran up at Watkins Glen with Gurney driving it out there? That committee was called the Fairlane Committee. And that Fairlane Committee looked through all sorts of names and badges, and some of you who've seen the 50 years presentation that I do have seen the pictures of all the different things our Mustang could have been called. But at the end of the day, they were arguing with Carroll over to what to call this car. And that was his quote. A name doesn't make a car makes a name. And he had his shop foreman go out and count the steps to the fence, and it was 347, and they came back and said, nope, we're going to call it GT350. Nothing to do with cubic inches of displacement, nothing to do with horsepower, nothing to do with anything. He says, you know what? You build a car that's going to kick everybody else's butt, and they'll remember the name. And over 50 years later, we're still remembering that name. So let's go back in here to the slides. So how do you test a car?
This car will want for nothing in anyone's eyes in terms of its capability. We have a brand new powertrain, brand new concept, lightweight, nimble, fast, responsive. It will be a Mustang. Mustang has a heritage. Mustang is fundamentally American, and Carroll Shelby was a big part of that. I think Carroll would have been extremely excited about what's going on here. He saw little bits of it before it passed. He knew where we were headed with this, and he has been a part of the planning. This is closer, I think, to what Carroll Shelby originally did with the Mustang than anything we've done in recent years. This car will be a strong legacy. This new car will in fact be just beyond anything anyone can ever imagine. It's going to be legendary.
So on the final version that you can see probably this week on Ford.com to put up the last comments that Eric made, the lawyers came back to me, Charlotte, who's been our attorney for more years than I care to imagine, comes back and says, well, you can't quantify exceeds everybody's expectations. So I have to chop that little piece out. But the point that Eric was making in there is this car is more true to what Carroll wanted to do, go left, go right, go fast, and stop, than any car we have produced. And please, I'm not degrading the Cobra R. I've had spent many times in that car running it. This car, when you guys get a chance to drive in it and ride in it, it will be beyond the expectations and more to what Carroll wanted to originally do with that GT350. So there's one other video here that I'd like to show you about the car.
Raceway in Danville, Virginia, testing the new GT350 prototype. We're working with a new, for 2015, suspension architecture. The new GT350 will have VWI, MagneRide dampers on all four corners, which gives us a lot of opportunity to do some really interesting things with the way the car steers and rides and handles. By using that and a very elaborate computer and a lot of sensors on the car, you can make the car do some pretty astounding things. You can use it to turn the car faster. It gives you a driving experience that's than you'll get in any other product.
So a couple of things about the engineers that you saw in there. Dave Harrison, everybody know the claim. I mean, we've certified that the 1314 GT500, does anybody know the miles an hour that we certified it at? 202. 202. I actually have footage. We did it at Nardo, Italy, but it was a private test and no cameras were allowed. And we had a camera in there anyways, so I can't like publish it. But the guy who was driving that car was Dave. Eric was there as well. Gene, the gentleman that you saw in the first video, he was out, story Carroll. Carroll was 88. We were doing the 13 GT500, and we took him out to the Arizona Proving Grounds. Now, I don't know how many of you know, but Carroll was suffering from severe macular degeneration. And for those of you who don't know what that is, you start to lose the ability to see, and how you actually get around is color differentiation. If you can picture a road course in a desert, there's almost zero color delineation. So Carroll takes the 13 GT500 out with Gene, and we have camera crews, and I've got people hiding behind tumbleweeds, and we're doing all sorts of stuff. And Gene comes up to me and goes, Jimmy, he goes, I know Carroll's going to drive this. He goes, with me, he goes, what if he can't see? I'm like, okay, that's a good idea. I said, all right, just pretend that I called you back in after you do the first lap. He is gone for 45 minutes. And the car comes back in, and most of the people there are running over to Carroll to see how Carroll's doing. I run over to Gene's window and rolls on with him. I'm like, he's like, Jim, within 3 laps, he was within 5 seconds of Gene's fastest time. At 88 years old. Gene has logged literally thousands of miles on that road course, and thousands of miles. He does the 24-hour durability. I mean, he's been out there on that course. And an 88-year-old man, through the seat of his pants, not seeing, was within that amount of time from his drive. But anyways, it's good that we had Carroll involved in it, I guess is what I'm trying to say with that. So, we go a little bit farther forward. Why did we do this now? As you noticed, we launched the Ford Performance Group, right? That takes the men and women who are developing the cars from RS Team in Europe, FPV in Australia, SVT in the United States, and put them all under one person. And do you know who that one person is? Dave Parasak, right? And now, what kind of guy is Parasak? I mean, he's the right person to have do this. Do you happen to see what that was?
Yes.
It was Easter eggs in your 2015 Mustang. Do you know what you have in your 2015 Mustang? Never been on a pre-title car before, ever. You got line locked. You can lock up your front brakes with a touch of a button, do about 15 seconds worth of a burnout, just for fun, track use only. Right? So why now? Well, we got the right leadership. We got the right people in there. And what is the first product that we're going to be launching under the new Ford Performance Group? That's the Shelby GT350. It's going to provide a halo to the entire Mustang lineup. It's going to continue the launch momentum that we started with the all-new 15 Mustang. It's going to deliver on the Ford Performance. Did anybody notice I swapped out SVT and put Ford Performance? Most of the executives still don't know I've done this yet. But the exclusivity, substance, and value. SVT and the men and women of SVT have always delivered you a performance car that is affordable. That Boss 302, you could buy 2.5 BMW M3s and that car will still kick its butt at Laguna Seca by about 3 seconds a lap. And we want to continue to extract an extremely loyal owner base, you guys, while appealing to a new generation, you, with this car. And we think we've hit it on all cylinders. Who did we compete ourselves again? I want you to look up there over the overright. Now please don't take pictures of this. On the bottom it should say Top Secret Ford. Look in the upper right. That's the car we're competing against. That's the car we designed against. And honest to God, at the test tracks that we've done, and no, I can't say Nürburgring.
What is it?
I can't say, it's a Porsche 911.
Okay.
All right, we're going to be a lot less expensive than that. Trust me. I haven't done pricing yet, but we're going to be a lot less than that. But those are the cars that we're going up against. Stingray, a little bit different class of car, but I'll tell you that our engineers are going after that. You've seen the vehicle here. Now, I photoshopped out the strut tower brace thing that I had to tape over in there for those of you who saw it when I opened the hood. Those are the videos I've already done. All right, let me make sure I'm not doing this. Did I do this right? Yes, no, yeah, I did. Okay, cool. All right, I want to make sure I took a couple things out of the slide today while I was sitting over here, and I want to make sure I did. So previously, GT500. Who has GT500s here? Okay, and you got the performance pack and the track pack and the electronics package, and your dealer or you just went up and checked the boxes going all the way up. We're kind of doing a little Y strategy now. Not like Y, W-H-Y. So for those of you, that's the tech pack that you see over there. For those of you who want to track the car, we're building a specific unit just to do that, and the price point is going to be, price is not going to be the reason why you choose either the track pack or the tech pack. It's going to be what you want to do with the car. Do you want the heated and cooled seats? Do you want the 8.5-inch screen with a 500 plus horsepower Magna Ride suspension, big huge brakes? No, I know. Some of us don't. I like the track pack car too. But, or do you want the track pack, which has the smaller screen, less weight in the electronics, Recaro seats, and a bigger rear spoiler? But the bottom line is, we're going to let these customers choose, you know, I'm not going to say, I almost said it, the people who want to use it only as a daily driver, and then the people who want to take it out on track. Then you go to the GT350R. Once again, there's going to be a version that has the electronics in it, and has something called air conditioning, and has a radio, and then there's going to be a version that doesn't. And I'll tell you, I mean, we're out in Texas heat today, what, 85, 86 degrees? You know, we probably would have used air conditioning if we were going to be taking the car to and from our place. But if we're out here, or if we're out at Hallett in Tulsa, and you want a track car, you're going to be able to get that track car too. So it's, again, about that choice and the performance that you want that's going to be in this car. Hoping I got rid of all the content stuff in there. We don't have to go through this. So, wrapping it up. One, if you walk away with one thing from my presentation today, one thing and one thing only, we can look at the car tomorrow and listen to it, and I'll open up the hood as long as it can. Cameras around, and we can kind of oogle over it, which is really good. But if there's one thing I want you to walk away from this presentation tonight, is that the Ford family and the people who are running Ford Motor Company are just like us. Right? They have what we want in their veins, and they are leading that effort to deliver cars like the Ford GT, for the off-road buffs, the Raptor. I mean, I saw a bunch of Raptors in here towing stuff, you know, out here today. But that, as good as the GT350 will be on that track, that Raptor is as good off-road. Those people, those leaders, that Ford family loves you guys, and loves absolutely everything we like to do here. And I want you to walk away that Ford Motor Company won't forget what you guys want. Enjoy the rest of the day tomorrow out on the track. We'll be giving some rides. I won't, I'm not allowed to anymore, but Del will, and Jonathan, and Jeff, and Mr. Hogue will probably do it. Mr. Jason will probably do it. Enjoy it. I'm so glad to have been here tonight. I truly enjoy doing this, and thank you for welcoming me to your family. Have a good evening.